this mess? You are completely incompetent.
That is quite enough, Beatrice. This young woman is now under my protection, and you will answer to me.
A single shattered wine glass was all it took to dismantle a dynasty. In the high-stakes world of Manhattan's elite, silence is usually the most expensive commodity, and invisibility is a curse reserved for the help. But on a rainy Tuesday at L'Orangerie, the social hierarchy was violently upended, when a shy, struggling waitress was forced to her knees by a cruel socialite. Nobody expected the frail woman in the gray cardigan to be the executioner. This isn't a fairy tale. It is the brutal, satisfying truth about power, karma, and the moment the most powerful woman in the room finally stopped watching and started speaking. The rain battered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of L'Orangerie, blurring the lights of Fifth Avenue into smeared streaks of gold and charcoal. Inside, the air smelled of truffle oil, aged mahogany, and old money. Mia Jenkins adjusted her apron for the 10th time that hour, her fingers trembling slightly. At 23, Mia had learned that the secret to survival in New York's most exclusive French restaurant wasn't efficiency or charm, it was invisibility. To the titans of industry and the heiresses who frequented L'Orangerie, Mia was not a person. She was a delivery mechanism for foie gras and vintage Bordeaux. She was a pair of floating hands. Table 4 needs a refill. Don't look them in the eye. Just pour, whispered Henri, the floor manager. Henri was a man whose spine seemed to dissolve whenever a credit card with a black or Centurion label appeared. And fix your hair. A wisp is loose. We are not a diner. Mia. Yes, Henri. Sorry, Mia murmured, tucking a stray strand of brown hair behind her ear. She needed this shift. Her mother's dialysis treatments in Queens were becoming more frequent, and the rent on their shoebox apartment was 3 days late. Every tip calculated in her head was a lifeline. Mia moved toward table 4, the prime window seat. It was occupied by Tiffany Dubois and Bradley Thorpe. Everyone knew Tiffany. She was the daughter of a real estate mogul, a brand ambassador for luxury goods, and a woman who treated service staff with the same affection one might show a cockroach. Bradley, her fiancé, was a hedge fund analyst who wore suits that cost more than Mia's annual salary and laughed too loudly at his own jokes. I said, I don't want the sparkling water if it's been sitting out, Tiffany was saying, her voice cutting through the ambient jazz. She flicked her hand dismissively, nearly knocking over the bread basket. It loses its effervescence. God, does nobody here understand chemistry? I'll bring a fresh bottle immediately, Miss Dubois, Mia said softly, reaching for the offending bottle. Don't interrupt me, Tiffany snapped, not turning her head. She continued scrolling on her phone. Brad, look at this. Jessica is wearing the same Valentino dress I bought for the gala. I have to burn it now. Bradley chuckled, swirling his scotch. Tragic, babe. Hey, waitress. Where's my ribeye? It's been 20 minutes. The kitchen is resting the meat, sir. It will be out in 2 minutes, Mia explained, hugging the tray to her chest. 2 minutes. Right, Bradley sneered. If it's cold, you're eating it. Mia retreated to the shadows near the service station. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Just 4 more hours. Make the rent. Go home. In the corner of the room, at table 9, a small, undesirable two-top near the kitchen doors, sat an elderly woman. She was dining alone. She wore a simple, charcoal gray wool suit that looked well-made but dated, perhaps from the late 90s. Her hair was white, pulled back in a severe bun, and she was reading a paperback novel while sipping Earl Grey tea. Most of the staff ignored table 9. The woman, who had booked under the name Mrs. E. James, ordered the cheapest soup on the menu and tap water. No wine. No appetizer. In the economics of L'Orangerie, she was a waste of real estate. Mia, however, felt a strange kinship with her. Earlier, she had noticed the woman rubbing her arthritic knuckles. Without being asked, Mia had brought her a small cushion for her back and refilled her teapot 3 times with extra hot water. Thank you, dear, the woman had said earlier, her eyes sharp and strikingly blue behind wire-rimmed glasses. You're the only one running tonight. Just busy, ma'am, Mia had smiled weakly. Busy, Mrs. James had hummed, her gaze drifting over to Tiffany Dubois at table 4. Some people demand attention because they have nothing else to offer. Mia had rushed off before she could respond, but the comment stuck with her. Now, carrying the steaming ribeye and a fresh, unopened bottle of San Pellegrino, Mia approached table 4 again. The atmosphere at the table had shifted. Tiffany looked bored and agitated. Finally, Tiffany sighed as Mia approached. I was about to call the police to report a missing steak. I apologize for the wait, Mia said. She placed the steak in front of Bradley with practiced precision. Then, she moved to pour the water for Tiffany. It happened in a split second. As Mia tilted the green bottle, Tiffany abruptly threw her arm out to show Bradley a photo on her phone. Look at this ring, she shrieked. Her elbow connected hard with Mia's wrist. The bottle slipped. Ice-cold sparkling water cascaded down the front of Tiffany's silk blouse. The bottle hit the edge of the table with a sickening clack, though miraculously didn't break, but the damage was done. Tiffany leaped up, her chair screeching against the parquet floor. You idiot, Tiffany screamed. The entire restaurant went silent. The jazz band stopped playing. You stupid, clumsy cow. Look what you did. Mia stood frozen, the blood draining from her face. Miss Dubois, you moved your arm? I'm so sorry. Let me get a towel. Don't touch me. Tiffany recoiled as if Mia were infectious. She looked down at her blouse, now clinging to her skin. This is silk. Do you know how much this cost? You couldn't afford the thread on the buttons. Henri, the manager, materialized instantly, sweating profusely. Miss Dubois, please, 1,000 apologies. We will pay for the cleaning. Of course, we will. Cleaning? Tiffany laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. It's ruined. I want her fired. Now, get this incompetent trash out of my sight. The silence in the restaurant was heavy, suffocating. Diners at other tables, CEOs, politicians, minor celebrities watched with a mix of amusement and annoyance. Nobody moved to help. It was a spectator sport. Mia's hands shook uncontrollably. Please, she whispered, her voice cracking. It was an accident. I can pay for the dry cleaning. Please, I need this job. You need a brain, Bradley chimed in, leaning back in his chair, enjoying the show. Honey, sit down. You're making a scene. I am the victim here. Tiffany turned her fury on Henri. Henri, are you deaf? I said fire her. If she is still in this building in 5 minutes, my father calls the owner. And you know my father doesn't just make complaints. He buys buildings, just to evict people he doesn't like. Henri looked at Mia. There was no pity in his eyes, only calculation. He couldn't afford to lose the Dubois business. The family hosted their corporate Christmas dinners here. That contract alone was worth $50,000. Mia, Henri said, his voice cold. Pack your things. Henri, please. Mia begged, tears finally spilling over. My mother. I can't lose this. Leave. Now, Henri snapped, pointing toward the kitchen. Tiffany smirked, satisfied. She picked up her napkin and dabbed at her chest. Finally, and Henri, comp the meal, I've lost my appetite. Mia turned, defeated. Her shoulders slumped, and she began the long, humiliating walk toward the kitchen doors. Every eye was on her. She felt small, worthless, like the dirt Tiffany claimed she was. Wait. The voice was not loud, but it possessed a timbre that cut through the room like a diamond cutter through glass. It was authoritative, crisp, and undeniable. Mia stopped. Henri stopped. Even Tiffany paused, looking around. Slowly, the elderly woman from table 9 stood up. She placed her napkin on the table and picked up her cane. She walked toward the center of the room, her movement slow but deliberate. Excuse me, Tiffany said, looking at the old woman with a mixture of confusion and disgust. Who are you? The coat check girl's grandmother? Mrs. E. James ignored the insult. She stopped a few feet from table 4. She looked at Henri, then at Mia, and finally rested her gaze on Tiffany. The girl didn't spill the water, the old woman said calmly. You knocked it out of her hand. I saw it. The gentleman at table 7 saw it. We all saw it. Tiffany laughed incredulously. Excuse me? Are you senile? She dropped it on me. You threw your arm out without looking, Mrs. James corrected, because you lack spatial awareness and manners. And now, you are attempting to destroy a young woman's livelihood to soothe your own ego. Listen, lady. Bradley stood up now, trying to use his height to intimidate her. Go back to your tea and mind your own business. You don't know who we are. Mrs. James smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a wolf looking at a lamb that thought it was a lion. Oh, I know exactly who you are, Mr. Thorpe, she said. Bradley Thorpe, junior analyst at Kensington & Co. You drive a Porsche you lease, and you're currently underperforming on the Asian markets portfolio. Your boss, Arthur, is worried about your lack of focus. Bradley's face went pale. How? How do you know that? She turned to Tiffany. And you are Tiffany Dubois, daughter of Robert Dubois. You dropped out of Parsons School of Design because the workload was too stressful, and you currently spend your days spending your father's dividends. You are a bully, my dear, and not a very original one. Tiffany's face flushed a deep crimson. You hag! Henri, get this geriatric freak out of here. She's harassing us. Henri was paralyzed. He looked between the wealthy socialite and the woman in the gray suit who seemed to know too much. Greed won out. Ma'am. Henri stepped forward, reaching for Mrs. James's arm. I'm going to have to ask you to settle your bill and leave. You are disturbing the VIPs. Mrs. James looked at Henri's hand hovering near her sleeve. Her eyes went cold. Touch me, Henri, and you will never work in the hospitality industry again, not even at a hot dog stand. Henri Frosa. I am not disturbing the VIPs, Mrs. James said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming steel, because there are no VIPs at this table. There are only 2 children playing dress-up. That's it. Tiffany grabbed her phone. I'm calling my dad. He's going to buy this place and turn it into a parking lot, and you're going to be arrested for harassment. Call him, Mrs. James challenged softly. Put him on speaker. I haven't spoken to Robert in. Oh, must be 3 months. Since the board meeting. Tiffany paused, her thumb hovering over the screen. Board meeting? What board meeting? The restaurant was deathly silent. Even the kitchen staff had pushed open the swinging doors to watch. Mrs. James sighed, looking bored. She reached into her nondescript leather handbag. She didn't pull out a phone. She pulled out a black card, not a credit card, but a heavy, metal identification card with a gold chip. She tossed it onto Tiffany's table. It landed with a heavy thud next to the spilled water. Tiffany looked down. The card read, St. James Holdings. Underneath, in embossed gold letters, Evelyn St. James, chairwoman. The color drained from Tiffany's face so fast she looked like she might faint. St. James Holdings was not just a company. It was the company. They owned the building L'Orangerie was in. They owned the bank Bradley worked for. They owned the construction firm Tiffany's father relied on for his steel supply. Evelyn Street. James was a recluse, a legend, a woman worth billions who hadn't been photographed in public in a decade. You. Bradley stammered, his knees actually shaking. You're Evelyn Street James? I am, Evelyn said. She turned to Mia, who was still standing near the kitchen, weeping silently. Mia, come here, child. Mia walked forward, terrified. Yes, ma'am? Dry your face, Evelyn said gently, handing Mia a handkerchief from her pocket. You are not fired. In fact, you are the only person in this establishment who has shown any competence or humanity tonight. Evelyn turned back to Henri. The manager was now trembling, so violently he had to hold onto a chair. Henri, Evelyn said, do you know why I come here dressed like this? Why I sit at the worst table? No, Mrs. Street James, Henri squeaked. To see the truth, she said. When you wear diamonds, people smile. When you wear wool and drink tap water, you see their souls. And Henri, I do not like your soul. You are a coward. She gestured to Tiffany and Bradley. These 2. They are banned. Permanently. From this restaurant. And from any property owned by Street James Holdings. You can't do that, Tiffany shrieked, though her voice lacked its earlier fire. My father. I will call your father. Robert. Myself. Evelyn interrupted. I'm sure he will be interested to hear that his daughter's behavior is risking his steel contracts. Now, get out, before I have security drag you out. Bradley didn't wait. He grabbed his jacket and practically ran for the door, leaving Tiffany behind. Tiffany looked around the room, saw the smirks on the faces of the other diners, and burst into tears. She grabbed her purse and ran after him. The restaurant erupted into low murmurs. Evelyn didn't look at them. She looked at Mia. Mia. Shift is over, Evelyn said. Go change. We have things to discuss. Discuss? Mia asked, confused. Mrs. Street James? I'm just a waitress. I don't understand. Evelyn's face softened. For the first time, she looked her age tired, but kind. You aren't just a waitress, Mia. You're the girl who stopped to help an old woman catch her breath on 57th Street 3 days ago when everyone else walked by. You didn't know who I was then, either. You gave me your bottle of water. Mia's eyes widened. She remembered. An old woman leaning against a lamppost, looking dizzy. Mia had been late for work, but she stopped. She had stayed for 10 minutes until the woman felt better. I never forget a kindness, Mia, Evelyn said. And I never forgive cruelty. Now, go change. My driver is outside. We are going to my office. Your office? Yes, Evelyn said, a mischievous glint in her eye. I need a personal assistant. And I suspect you need a job that pays more than minimum wage, plus the abuse of spoiled children. Mia stood stunned. Go on, Evelyn urged. As Mia ran to the locker room, Evelyn Street James turned to the rest of the dining room. She tapped her cane on the floor once. Eat your dinner, she commanded the room. And instantly, everyone looked down at their plates. The transition from the grease-stained floors of L'Orangerie to the 65th floor of the Street James Tower was not just a change of scenery. It was a migration to a different planet. The elevator ride alone made Mia's ears pop. When the doors slid open, she stepped onto plush cream carpet that felt thicker than the mattress she slept on in Queens. The air here didn't smell of food. It smelled of orchids and ozone. Welcome to the nerve center, Evelyn said, walking briskly past a reception desk that cost more than a house. Mia clutched her worn canvas tote bag tight to her chest. She felt like an imposter, a smudge of dirt on a pristine canvas. Mrs. Street James, are you sure I'm qualified for this? I dropped out of community college to pay for my mom's medical bills. I don't know anything about corporate finance. Evelyn stopped and turned, leaning on her cane. I have 300 MBAs working in this building, Mia. They can calculate risk, but they cannot calculate loyalty. They would sell their own mothers for a quarterly bonus. I don't need a calculator. I need a conscience. Before Mia could process that, a set of double mahogany doors burst open. A man strode out, looking like a storm cloud, in a bespoke Italian suit. He was tall, with the same piercing blue eyes as Evelyn, but his jaw was set in a permanent line of suspicion. This was Liam Street James, the heir, the shark. Mother, Liam barked, ignoring Mia completely. Security just told me you brought a civilian up the private elevator. And not just a civilian, someone who triggered the metal detector with a... He glanced at a tablet in his hand with disdain, a box of breath mints, and a subway pass. Liam, don't be a snob. It's unbecoming, Evelyn said dryly. This is Mia Jenkins. She is my new executive assistant. Liam finally looked at Mia. His gaze was a physical weight. He scanned her cheap shoes, her frayed cardigan, her terrified expression. He didn't see a person. He saw a security risk. The waitress, Liam said flatly. I heard about the incident at L'Orangerie. You fired a client worth millions and hired the help. Is this another one of your charity projects, Mother? Like the stray cat you let live in the pool house. Mia is not a stray cat. She is on the payroll. And you will treat her with respect, Evelyn warned, her voice dropping that dangerous octave again. Liam stepped closer to Mia. He was intimidatingly tall. Listen to me clearly, Miss Jenkins. My mother is eccentric. She likes to collect broken things. But this company is not a soup kitchen. We deal in billions. One mistake, one leaked email, one lost document, and I will destroy you legally so thoroughly you won't be able to get a library card. Mia swallowed hard. The old Mia would have apologized and backed away. But the image of Tiffany Dubois laughing at her was still fresh in her mind, and she thought of her mother, lying in a dialysis chair, worrying about the electric bill. Mia straightened her spine. She looked up at Liam. I don't leak emails. Mr. Street. James, Mia said, her voice shaking but audible. And I don't break things. I fix them. I fixed your Mother's Day when your clients were abusing her. What were you doing? Oh, right. You weren't there. Silence stretched in the hallway. Liam blinked, surprised. Nobody spoke to him like that. Not the staff, not the board members. She speaks, Liam murmured, a flicker of something annoyance, respect, crossing his face. He turned back to Evelyn. Fine, but if she messes up the Dubois merger, her head is on a spike. The Dubois merger? Mia asked, confused. I thought you banned them. I banned the daughter and her idiot fiancé, Evelyn corrected, walking toward her office. But Robert Dubois, the father, is still a snake we have to do business with. He is trying to buy a majority share in our logistics division. He thinks I'm too old to notice he's undervaluing the assets. Evelyn sat behind a desk that looked like it was carved from the hull of a galleon. She gestured for Mia to sit. Here is the truth, Mia. I am not just hiring you to answer phones. I am dying. The air left the room. Mia gasped. Mrs. Street James. Pancreatic cancer, Evelyn said, waving her hand as if discussing the weather. Stage 4. Nobody knows except my doctor. Not the board. Not the press. And certainly not Liam. If the shareholders find out, the stock tanks. If Robert Dubois finds out, he circles like a vulture. Why didn't you tell Liam? Mia whispered. Because Liam reacts with anger, not strategy. He loves me, and grief makes him reckless. I need to secure the company's future before I go. I need to stop the Dubois takeover. And I can't trust the people in this building because half of them are on Robert Dubois' payroll. Evelyn leaned forward. I saw your resume, Mia. Or rather, the background check I ran in the car. You were a math prodigy in high school. You won the state championship. You dropped out because you had no money, not because you were stupid. You have a mind for patterns. Mia nodded slowly. I like numbers. They make sense. People don't. Exactly, Evelyn smiled grimly. I'm going to give you access to the unredacted ledgers, the real ones. I need you to find where Dubois is hiding his debt. If we can prove he's insolvent, we can kill the merger and save the company. Can you do that? It was insane. It was corporate espionage. It was way above the pay grade of a waitress. How much? Mia asked. $10,000 a month. Full health insurance for you and your mother. And a signing bonus of $50,000 to clear your debts. Today, Mia thought of the eviction notice on her fridge. She thought of her mother's tired eyes. Show me the ledgers, Mia said. 2 weeks later, Mia was unrecognizable. The gray cardigan was gone, replaced by a tailored navy blazer and slacks Evelyn had ordered for her. Her hair was cut in a sharp, professional bob. But the biggest change was in her eyes. They were no longer downcast. They were focused, tired, and burning with intensity. For 14 days, Mia had lived in the Street James archives. She slept 4 hours a night. She swam through oceans of spreadsheets, tax returns, and shell company filings. She was the ghost in the machine. Liam watched her from afar. He was still cold, but he was confused. She wasn't shopping online. She wasn't gossiping with the secretaries. She was working harder than his senior analysts. She's found something, Liam said to himself one evening, watching Mia on the security feed. She was pacing around the conference room at 2 a.m., muttering to herself, highlighting a stack of papers. The next day was the annual Street James Gala. It was the social event of the season, and more importantly, it was where the Dubois merger was scheduled to be publicly announced or killed. The ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was dripping in crystals and malice. Every major player in New York was there. Mia stood by Evelyn's side. Evelyn was seated in a wheelchair, now claiming a skiing injury to hide her weakness, but she looked regal in black velvet. "Stay close," Evelyn whispered to Mia. "Robert Dubois is here. He's the man in the tuxedo with the red handkerchief. He looks like a grandfather, but he bites." Robert Dubois approached them. He was charming, smiling, the picture of benevolence. Beside him was Tiffany, wearing a dress that cost more than a car, glaring at Mia with pure venom. "Evelyn," Robert beamed, kissing Evelyn's hand. "You look resilient." "Robert," Evelyn nodded, "and you look like you've been eating well, perhaps too well." Robert laughed, but his eyes were hard. "And who is this? The new nurse?" He gestured to Mia. "This is my associate, Miss Jenkins," Evelyn said. "The waitress," Tiffany hissed loudly enough for the nearby circle to hear. "Daddy, this is the girl who attacked me at the restaurant. I can't believe you're letting her stand here." "Quiet, Tiffany," Robert said smoothly. He looked at Mia. "Miss Jenkins, a pleasure. I hope you're better at reading contracts than you are at pouring water." "I'm excellent at reading, Mr. Dubois," Mia said, her voice steady. "Especially footnotes." Robert's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Is that so?" Robert murmured. He checked his watch. "Well, enjoy the party. The board vote is in an hour. I expect we'll be partners soon. Evelyn." He walked away. "He's nervous," Mia whispered to Evelyn. "He knows I'm looking." "Did you find the smoking gun?" Evelyn asked. "Almost," Mia said. "I found a recurring transfer to a shell company in the Cayman Islands called Blue Heron. It matches the exact amount of the deficit in his construction arm. If I can prove Blue Heron belongs to him, it's fraud. He's using company loans to pay personal gambling debts. It's a Ponzi scheme." "Get the proof," Evelyn commanded. "My tablet is in the cloakroom safe. Access the Cayman registry. I have the codes." Mia nodded and slipped away through the crowd. She reached the private cloakroom reserved for the Street James family. She gave the attendant the code and retrieved Evelyn's platinum tablet. Her heart was racing. She just needed 5 minutes on a secure server. She found a quiet alcove near the kitchen service entrance ironic. She thought and logged in. Her fingers flew across the screen. "Blue Heron. Owner, got you," she whispered. The name on the registration wasn't Robert Dubois. It was his wife's maiden name. It was a direct link. "What are you doing?" Mia jumped, nearly dropping the tablet. Liam was standing there. He looked furious. "Liam, I found it," Mia said, breathless, turning the screen to him. "Look, the Dubois accounts. He's bankrupt. He's stealing from his own investors to keep the stock price up. If you sign the merger, he'll drain Street James Holdings dry to pay his debts." Liam looked at the screen, then at Mia. His expression softened into shock. "My God, you actually found it. We have to tell your mother. Before the vote." "Give it to me," Liam said, reaching for the tablet. "I'll handle this. You go back to the party." Mia hesitated. Evelyn had told her to trust no one, but this was Liam, her son. "Liam, your mother said?" "I said, give it to me," Liam snapped. He grabbed the tablet, but before he could look at it again, the service door burst open. 2 security guards entered, followed by Robert Dubois and, shockingly, Henri, the manager from l'Orangerie. "There she is." Henri pointed a shaking finger at Mia. "That's her. I saw her take it." "Take what?" Mia asked, stepping back. "My wife's diamond bracelet," Robert Dubois said, his face a mask of faux concern. "It went missing 10 minutes ago. Henri here says he saw you slipping out of the VIP room." "That's a lie," Mia shouted. "I've been here with the tablet." "Search her," Robert ordered the guards. "You have no right." Liam stepped in front of Mia. "Back off, Dubois." "Liam, be reasonable," Robert said soothingly. "If she's innocent, she has nothing to fear." "But Tiffany said she saw the girl eyeing her jewelry all night." "Poor girl. Poverty makes people do desperate things." One of the guards grabbed Mia's tote bag, which she had left on a chair. He dumped the contents onto the floor. Lipstick, a notebook, a wallet, and a glistening diamond tennis bracelet worth $50,000. Mia stared at it. The world stopped spinning. I didn't put that there. I swear. A thief, Robert tutted, and a corporate spy, judging by the tablet. Liam, surely you see now? She's not an analyst. She's a grifter. She probably seduced your mother into hiring her just to rob you blind. Liam looked at the bracelet. He looked at Mia. The trust that had been building in his eyes shattered. Liam, it's a setup, Mia pleaded. He's trying to stop me from showing the files. Henry is working for him. Silence, Liam roared. He looked at Mia with cold devastation. I knew it. I knew you didn't belong here. Liam, look at the tablet, Mia cried. The police are on their way, Robert smiled. I think it's best if we take that tablet, Liam. Company secrets, you know. Robert reached for the device in Liam's hand. Don't touch it. The voice came from the hallway. It was weak, strained, but unmistakable. Evelyn Street James was wheeling herself down the corridor. She looked pale, sweat beading on her forehead, but her eyes were blazing blue fire. Mother, you shouldn't be here, Liam said, conflicted. Mia stole nothing, Evelyn rasped. She coughed, a wet, painful sound, and wiped her mouth with a handkerchief. It came away spotted with blood. Mother? Liam's anger vanished, replaced by panic. He rushed to her side. Mother, what's wrong? You're bleeding. The cancer, Liam. Evelyn whispered, gripping his hand. I'm dying. And I don't have time for your stupidity. Cancer? Liam froze. The word hit him harder than a physical blow. What? Focus. Evelyn shook him. She pointed her cane at Robert Dubois. Robert paid Henri to plant that bracelet, just like he paid the health inspector to downgrade lingerie last year to lower the property value so he could buy it. He is a cheat. Prove it, Robert sneered, though he looked nervously at the security cameras. I don't need to prove the theft, Evelyn said. I need to prove you are a fraud. She looked at Liam. Look at the tablet, Liam. Look at the file Mia found. Blue heron. Liam looked down at the screen he was still holding. He swiped past the lock screen. He saw the Cayman Island registration. He saw the numbers. His face hardened into stone. He looked up at Robert Dubois. You're insolvent, Liam said, his voice dangerously quiet. You've been cooking the books for 5 years. That's a fabrication, Robert shouted. That waitress faked it. It's a government registry, Robert, Liam said. It's time-stamped. Liam turned to the security guards. Gentlemen, Mr. Dubois is trespassing. Escort him out, and hold Henri for the police. We're pressing charges for filing a false report and conspiracy. You can't do this, Robert screamed as the guards, realizing who signed their paychecks, grabbed him by the arms. I'll ruin you. I'll bury this company. You're already buried, Liam said coldly. Get him out of my sight. As Robert and a sobbing Henri were dragged away, the adrenaline left the room. Evelyn slumped in her wheelchair, her head lolling back. Mother! Liam fell to his knees beside her. Call an ambulance, now! Mia rushed over, grabbing Evelyn's cold hand. Mrs. Street James? Evelyn, stay with us! Evelyn's eyes fluttered open. She looked at Mia. Did we win? She whispered. We won, Mia cried, tears streaming down her face. You saved the company. Good. Evelyn breathed. She looked at Liam. Liam. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I wanted to protect you. You don't need to protect me, Liam choked out. You just need to stay alive. I'm tired, Liam, she murmured. Her gaze drifted back to Mia. Mia, there is one more thing. The reason I hired you, because I helped you on the street? Mia asked. No, Evelyn smiled faintly. Because of your father, Arthur Jenkins. Mia froze. You knew my dad? Arthur was the best accountant I ever had, Evelyn whispered. 20 years ago, Robert Dubois accused him of embezzlement. It was a lie. Robert stole the money and framed Arthur. I didn't fight hard enough for him. I let them fire him. I let them ruin his name. He died of a heart attack 2 years later because of the stress. Mia pulled back, shocked. Her father hadn't just been unlucky. He had been targeted. The poverty she and her mother had lived in for 2 decades, it wasn't an accident, it was because of Robert Dubois. And Evelyn Street James had watched it happen. I have carried that guilt every day, Evelyn wheezed. When I saw you, I saw him. I saw his eyes. I had to make it right. I had to give Arthur's daughter the weapon to destroy the man who killed him. Evelyn gripped Mia's hand tighter. The company. The legacy. It's not just Liam's. I left you. Shares. You are part of this. Her voice faded. Her eyes rolled back. Mother! Liam screamed. Evelyn! Mia shouted. Paramedics burst through the service doors, swarming the wheelchair. The sounds of the gala in the other room, the music, the laughter seemed a million miles away. As they loaded Evelyn onto the stretcher, Liam stood up. He was covered in his mother's blood. He looked at Mia. There was no suspicion in his eyes anymore. Only a shared, devastating grief, and a dawning realization of a secret that changed everything. She knew, Liam whispered. All this time, she was training you. Mia looked at her hands. They were shaking. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was the daughter of the man they destroyed. And she had just taken down the king. Is she going to die? Mia asked, her voice small. Liam looked at the stretcher disappearing into the elevator. I don't know, but if she does, we are going to make Robert Dubois wish he was dead. Liam extended his hand to Mia. Come on, he said. We have a board meeting to crash. The elevator ride from the lobby of the Plaza Hotel to the private conference suite on the penthouse floor took only 40 seconds. But for Mia Jenkins, it felt like a lifetime. Beside her, Liam Street James stood in silence. He had wiped the blood from his hands, but a streak of crimson remained on his white cuff, a stark reminder of the matriarch fighting for her life in an ambulance siren fading into the Manhattan night. They're going to eat you alive, Liam said, staring at the digital floor numbers climbing. The board. Half of them were appointed by Robert Dubois. They don't know about the fraud yet. They only know their stock options are at risk. Mia adjusted her blazer. She didn't feel like the shy waitress who had trembled over a spilled water bottle anymore. The revelation about her father, Arthur Jenkins, had ignited a cold, hard furnace in her chest. This wasn't just corporate strategy. This was a blood feud. Let them try, Mia said. I have the truth. And I have you. Liam looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time as an equal. Yes, you have me. The door slid open. The boardroom was a cloud of cigar smoke and nervous energy. 12 men and women in suits worth more than Mia's childhood home sat around a long obsidian table. They stopped talking as Liam entered, followed by the assistant. Liam, said George Sterling, the vice chairman and a known golf buddy of Robert Dubois. We heard a rumor that Robert was escorted out by security. What is the meaning of this? And where is Evelyn? We are about to vote on the merger. Liam walked to the head of the table, his mother's seat. He didn't sit. He gripped the back of the leather chair. There will be no merger, Liam announced, his voice echoing in the cavernous room. Robert Dubois has been arrested for grand larceny, embezzlement, and corporate fraud. Chaos erupted. Shouts of preposterous and call the lawyers filled the air. This is a coup, George Sterling shouted, slamming his hand on the table. You're trying to sink the deal because you're emotional, Liam. Robert is a pillar of this industry. Robert is a tick, Mia spoke up. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise. George sneered at her. And who are you? The secretary. Fetch us some coffee and be quiet. Liam stepped forward, his fists clenched, but Mia put a hand on his arm to stop him. She walked to the large screen at the front of the room. She plugged in the platinum tablet. I am Mia Jenkins, she said, facing the room, daughter of Arthur Jenkins. A few of the older board members went pale. They remembered the name. They remembered the scandal. And this, Mia tapped the screen, projecting the blue heron documents, is where your dividends went. For the next 20 minutes, Mia dismantled the Dubois empire. She showed them the shell companies, the fake logistics reports, the loans taken out in street, James Holding's name to pay off illegal gambling debts. She laid out the forensic accounting with the precision of a surgeon. She didn't stumble. She didn't stutter. She was channeling the father she had lost and the woman who had saved her. When she finished, the room was dead silent. The undeniable truth hung in the air. Robert Dubois was broke, and he had almost dragged them all down with him. George Sterling slumped in his chair, defeated. We didn't know. You didn't look, Mia corrected him coldly. Because it was easier to count your money than to ask questions. Liam stepped up beside her. The vote is now. Motion to terminate all negotiations with Dubois Industries and authorize a full external audit of our own books. Seconded. A woman at the end of the table said quietly. All in favor? Liam asked. Every hand went up. Even George Sterling's. The Dubois threat was dead. But as the adrenaline faded, the reality of the night came crashing back. Liam's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and his face crumbled. It's the hospital, he whispered. The final lesson. Mount Sinai Hospital was a sterile maze of white corridors and beeping machines. Evelyn Street James lay in the ICU, hooked up to a ventilator. She looked so small without her tailored suits and her iron armor of wit. Mia stood by the window, watching the city lights. She felt like an intruder in this family moment, but when she tried to leave, Liam had grabbed her hand. She asked for you, he had said. At 3 a.m., Evelyn's eyes opened. The doctors removed the breathing tube. They said it was the surge, that final burst of energy before the end. Liam sat on the edge of the bed, holding her hand, tears streaming openly down his face. We did it, Mother. The board voted. Dubois is finished. The police have him. Evelyn smiled, a weak, ghostly expression. I knew you would. She turned her head slowly to look at Mia. Come here, child. Mia approached, taking Evelyn's other hand. It felt like dry parchment. I'm here, Evelyn. Arthur. Evelyn wheezed. He would be so proud. You look just like him when you're angry. Mia choked back a sob. Thank you for giving me the chance. Not a chance, Evelyn whispered. A right? She squeezed Mia's hand with surprising strength. Don't let the money change you, Mia. It turns people into statues. Stay warm. She looked back at Liam. And you. Stop trying to be your father. You are, Liam. That is enough. I love you, Mom, Liam cried, pressing his forehead to her hand. I know, Evelyn breathed. Her eyes drifted to the ceiling, but she seemed to be looking through it, at something far away. Finally, I can rest. No more meetings. The monitor's beeping slowed. Then, it settled into a long, flat tone. Evelyn Street James, the Iron Lady of New York, was gone. In the silence of the room, the barrier between the billionaire heir and the waitress dissolved completely. Liam stood up and pulled Mia into a hug. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate. Human, two orphans clinging to each other in the wreckage of a storm. Mia held him as he shook, her own tears soaking his shirt. They were partners now, bound by a secret history and a shared grief. The reading of the will. The funeral was the largest gathering of wealth New York had seen in a decade. They came to pay respects, but mostly, they came to see who would inherit the throne. Tiffany Dubois was not there. The papers that morning had splashed her face on the front page. Socialate's father indicted for billion-dollar fraud. Assets frozen. Tiffany was currently hiding in a motel in Jersey City. Her credit cards declined, her friends blocking her number. 2 days later, inside the library of the Street James estate, the family lawyer sat down with Liam and Mia. Evelyn updated her will 3 weeks ago, the lawyer stated, adjusting his glasses. She was very specific. He looked at Liam. To my son, Liam, I leave the Street James estate, the majority voting shares, and the position of chairman of the board. You are the head, Liam. Lead with your heart, not just your head. Liam nodded solemnly. And the lawyer turned to Mia Jenkins. Mia held her breath. She expected a severance package. Maybe enough to pay off her student loans. I leave 10% of the Class A stock in Street James Holdings. The lawyer paused to let that sink in. 10%. That was worth roughly $400 million. Mia gasped, covering her mouth. No, I can't. That's too much. There is a condition, the lawyer continued. Mia is to be named the CEO of the newly formed Arthur Jenkins Foundation, funded by these shares. The foundation will be dedicated to providing legal aid and financial support to employees who have been wrongfully terminated or exploited by corporate malfeasance. Also, she retains her position as Vice President of Operations at Street James Holdings, answering only to the chairman. The lawyer handed Mia a letter. She wrote this for you. Mia opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Evelyn's elegant script covered the page. My dear Mia, money is a tool, not a prize. I watched your father die because he had no shield against men like Dubois. Now, you are the shield for others. Don't just spend it. Use it. Make them afraid to mistreat the invisible people. You were never just a waitress, Mia. You were a queen in waiting. P.S. I left a small, specific instruction regarding l'orangerie. Enjoy. 6 months later, the snow was falling gently on Fifth Avenue, much like it had on that fateful night. But inside l'orangerie, everything was different. The stuffy, oppressive atmosphere was gone. The music was lively. The staff looked relaxed, smiling, moving with dignity. Mia Jenkins sat at table 4, the window seat. She wore a cream cashmere coat and simple pearl earrings. She didn't look like a waitress, and she didn't look like a cruel socialite. She looked like a woman who owned the place. Because she did. Part of Evelyn's will had instructed the purchase of the building and the restaurant. Mia had fired the toxic management, raised the staff wages to $30 an hour, and instituted a policy. Rudeness to staff results in an immediate, permanent ban. Across from her sat Liam. He looked tired but happier than he had ever been. The weight of the deception was gone. He and Mia worked side by side every day. They were a terrifyingly effective team. He had the pedigree and the power. She had the instincts and the hunger. The quarterly reports are up 15%, Liam said, toasting her with a glass of wine. And the foundation just won its first class action lawsuit against that textile factory in Brooklyn. Good, Mia smiled. We're just getting started. The bell above the door chimed. A wet, shivering figure walked in. It was Tiffany Dubois. She looked haggard. Her hair was frizzy, her designer coat was stained, and clearly 3 seasons old. She walked up to the host stand. The new maitre d', a young man named Carlos, whom Mia had personally promoted from busboy, looked at her. I need a table, Tiffany stammered. Just for tea. It's cold. Carlos looked down at the reservation book. Then he looked up at the balcony, where Mia and Liam were sitting. Mia looked down. Their eyes met. Tiffany froze. She saw the woman she had called a cow, the woman she had tried to destroy, sitting in the seat of power. Shame, hot and burning, flushed Tiffany's face. She expected Mia to scream, to point, to have security throw her out into the snow. That's what Tiffany would have done. Mia picked up her wine glass. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just watched. She gave a subtle nod to Carlos. We have a table for you, Miss Dubois, Carlos said politely. Table 9, by the kitchen. Tiffany looked at the small, drafty table in the corner, the exact spot where Evelyn Street James used to sit. The penalty box. Tiffany swallowed her pride. She had no money. She had nowhere else to go. Thank you, she whispered. As Tiffany walked to the back, keeping her head down, Liam looked at Mia with a raised eyebrow. You're nicer than I would have been. She's not worth the energy of hate, Mia said softly. Besides, table 9 has the best view of the dining room. Maybe she'll learn something. I did. Mia looked out the window at the city. She thought of her mother, now living in a beautiful house with full-time care. She thought of her father, whose name was now on a plaque in the lobby of the skyscraper. And she thought of the old woman in the gray suit, who had changed everything with a single sentence. Mia raised her glass to the empty chair beside them. "To Evelyn," she whispered. "To Evelyn." Liam echoed. They drank. The jazz band played on, and for the first time in her life, Mia Jenkins didn't want to be invisible. She wanted the world to see her, and they did. This story reminds us that character is not defined by your bank account, but by how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Tiffany Dubois had everything, and lost it all because she thought she was above basic human decency. Mia Jenkins had nothing, but her kindness to a stranger unlocked a destiny she never imagined. In the end, the invisible waitress became the most powerful person in the room, proving that while money talks, true class whispers. Wow, what a journey! From a spilled bottle of water to a $400 million empire. I have to ask you guys, do you think Mia was too nice to Tiffany in the end? Should she have kicked her out, or was giving her the bad table the ultimate power move? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of karma, revenge, and redemption, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a story. We have plenty more tales of justice coming your way. Thanks for listening, and remember, be kind, because you never know who you're talking to. See you in the next video.